Okay, welcome. So this is Vickie Magic, and I am an internationally accredited life and business coach and also a journalist. But today I'm sharing with you a podcast called Wake Up, You've Got This. And the whole idea of this podcast is to inspire you, the listener, to wake up and to fully understand that you have got this, that you've got all the tools within you to be and do whatever it is that you want for yourself and your life. So I'm sharing with you through a series of amazing people to help to inspire you, to give you some tips and tricks to help you to live that better version of your life. And today I have an amazing young man, Dane Shelford, and Dane is an ex-New Zealand football player. He is an entrepreneur, having started lots of businesses, including one which actually tallied $30 million over the last 7 years. So I am absolutely positive that Dane has lots of great tips to share with you. So Dane, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for coming along today. And I'd love to start by actually asking you to share a little bit about your background and how you came to be here on the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah, okay. So I'm originally from New Zealand, Southland to be specific, right down the bottom. I think Mick Jagger and that, when they visited down there, didn't have some kind words to say about the place, so sort of sums it up a little bit. Small country town. And I played professional rugby union, so I was fortunate enough to sort of travel at a young age, and it eventually took me around New Zealand, different locations, and then had a really bad injury, which sort of just basically made me reassess my life. Up until that point, I was just going to be a professional rugby player. There was no two ways about it. And yeah, in my eyes, that's all I was going to do. I didn't really have any insight as to what was going to happen after that. So in hindsight, it was probably the biggest blessing I've ever had. And then I eventually, so I ended up living in Auckland, and then I sort of figured out where I need to do something with my life other than rugby, and that's when I basically went down the entrepreneurial route and just snowballed from there and started multiple businesses, failed miserably a lot of times, and then I ended up moving from Auckland over to Melbourne for one of my businesses, which was sort of taking off in Australia, and then I met my now partner. We've got 2 wonderful kids, and she's from the sunny coast. Yep. So we're in Melbourne living had a wonderful life, young and eating all the yummy food and taking in all the culture. But when we had our firstborn, our oldest Cooper, we just realised that Melbourne, where we were living and that lifestyle, we were still trying to have that same lifestyle, and we just wanted something a bit more for our family, and so we decided to make the move up to the sunny coast, and I've sort of myself been working remotely from here, and also started a number of other companies once I got to Melbourne, and eventually my now marketing company Accredited, which I run from here. So
yeah, awesome. And I am going to ask you a little bit about Accredited and to explain what that does, what that company does, but if I was to take you back to a moment in your life where you would say, if you look back at your life from now, when it was that you woke up, when was that moment and what did you wake up to?
Yeah, it was definitely when I had my injury. Basically waking up to the fact that maybe my life was too one-dimensional. And the hardest thing too, growing up in a small town, in a place where rugby is religion, arguably, and you become a big fish in a very small pond. So for me, that's what created my identity. Yep. And that's just always who I was. Like, I felt really foreign even reading a book about business or just something completely different. Not worrying about nutrition and training and all these sort of things. So, I guess that for me, that was a massive wake up moment. It was like, something can really go wrong here, and I can end up being in a position where I basically, rugby. I can't play rugby. So, for me, that was definitely a wake up moment for me.
Yeah. And so, what happened then from that awakening? What was the very next step? I mean, you said that obviously you then kind of ended up moving to Melbourne and starting a marketing business. And
So I was fortunate. I was actually the girl I was seeing at the time. Her grandfather was a multi-millionaire, like self-made, really successful financially, but also successful in his family. Like they were very family focused, and they had, a really big family, and they had big gatherings, and just a really fruitful life.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a lot of inspiration from him, and I ended up sitting down with him and just picking his brains about a lot of things. And I gained massive inspiration from that, and and then I just dove deep. He sort of pointed me in the right direction. I started reading books and, listening to audiobooks, watching videos, all those sort of things, and then the self-manifestation in my mind of like, wow, this is what's possible. And it's amazing when, people say what you believe you can conceive.
Yep.
And I guess you don't know that's true until you actually look back. And if you're believing about negative thoughts, you probably won't see that as much. But looking back, everything I have today is everything I've sort of dreamt about. And so for me, it was like getting my mindset into that, and basically just pursuing it and not giving up. And then it was just basically being in that mindset, and I started seeing all these different doors opening up, whereas I probably would have not seen them had I not been in that sort of mindset of just putting one foot in front of the other and just like expanding my horizons
and believing
and
that
believing,
you can achieve,
100%.
And so, obviously, the purpose of these podcasts are to inspire our listeners, to achieve for themselves. So, if you think about one tip that you might actually share with our listeners, something that really helped you, and maybe that you even still use to this day, what would that be?
I don't want to be really somber or negative, but for me, I actually constantly remind myself that I'm going to die one day. Because at the end of the day, we can't avoid it. There's two things we can't avoid in life: death and taxes.
Yep.
So it's just, it's just part of life. So, when I'm confronted with a situation where I'm on the fence about, and more so on the fence because I'm maybe scared or, I'm sort of self-doubting myself, or have self-doubt, sorry, I just remind myself of that fact that, one day when I'm on my deathbed, all of this isn't going to matter. So
may as well live the fullest day today.
100%.
Yeah.
So why let it stop me? And that having that sort of mindset has enabled me to achieve so much. I can pinpoint it actually to one time when I was starting a medical resale business, and we basically started that purely by just cold calling, and we found a need in the market, and we thought, well, we can actually create a bridge here and create and solve a problem.
Yep.
And part of that was just ringing our who were going to be our customers and just sort of picking their brains about like troubles that they were having, and we ended up the largest private hospital network. I won't name names, but basically said, "Oh, this is exactly what we need. Can you come to Sydney and meet with us in their head office?" And at the time, I was in Auckland, and I was actually still working in another job, so I had to take sick. I pulled a sickie, flew to Sydney, and stayed in like this hotel room which was above a nightclub. Yep. I remember looking at the prices in Sydney for accommodation. Was like, oh, I can't afford that. I'm gonna have to stay in like this cheap one. And there was a cockroach running around. So it was all that. And I remember going, and we didn't even have a company at that stage. My business partner
just
was
the concept. Really.
My business partner was experienced in the field, so we had leverage. But we only had a business card. We're in the elevator, and I remember just thinking, oh, I can't do this. And then I just snapped out of it and said, look, one day you're gonna die. Like, this isn't gonna matter. And we went into the meeting, and long story short, we're $30, $40, $50 million probably now in terms of sales of what we're doing. So
Fantastic. And so in a nutshell, you sell used medical equipment to overseas?
So we're sort of the bridge between hospitals here in Australia and New Zealand, and we basically source buyers for them. Yeah, a lot of people think we sell to third world countries, but we don't, for a number of reasons. Not so much that we don't want to support charities, of course, but just infrastructure and things like that. It's quite difficult to make sure that people know what they're doing once they receive the items.
Yep.
So we do deal with some reputable charities, but majority of our stuff doesn't go to third world countries. It's just creating a bridge between a market that needs these types of items for parts and things like that, and bridging between hospitals that just want to get rid of it because they've got new technology coming in.
Yep. And also just quickly as well, if we've got someone listening who, might be very keen and interested in finding a marketing person.
Yeah.
What is your point of difference in the marketing arena?
Yeah, so we started Accredited basically on the back of our own businesses. We were using all these methodologies to grow our own businesses, and also using digital marketing agencies purely to outsource for time. And we just were really disappointed. We just found that a lot of marketing companies they sort of speak in marketing terms, whereas as a business owner, all I really cared about was how much money was I spending and how much money was I getting in return.
Yep.
So just wanting to create basically a business that was massively focused on return on investment, without going down there's obviously other elements in marketing, branding and all those sort of things, but we sort of try and provide the solution for companies that are just struggling to, get a little bit more certainty around their lead generation, their sale generation and things like that. So a unique point of difference is basically business owners helping business owners, and that's essentially coming from a business owner's perspective and sort of putting ourselves in their shoes. A couple other things we do is just keeping our client to account manager ratio really small, so that we are giving the love that our clients deserve. They're paying us to do a job, so we take that very personally, probably too personally sometimes, but at the end of the day, our clients they've got families to feed, they've got roofs to put over their heads, so we do take it very personally. And
a lot of your methodology is through the digital platforms.
So we to be honest with you, I'm specialised in a lot of different areas just purely because growing my own businesses, but we've sort of refined it down into the digital marketing space, paid ads. We do a little bit of SEO and content creation as well, just to sort of go hand in hand with that.
So paid ads on Facebook and
Facebook,
Instagram.
Mainly Facebook, Instagram and Google.
Cool.
You've got LinkedIn and all those other sort of avenues as well, but we generally go to where we think we can get the best results for our clients first, and then sort of venture out into other platforms from there.
Mm-hmm. And so, again, for the purposes of the podcast, I truly believe that, we've all got this, that everything that we need to be, whatever it is that we want to be, is already within us. Do you think you've got this?
What, life?
Yeah.
I think that's probably very subjective, but for me, no. I feel like I'm always learning every day.
Yeah,
when you think you've got it all sorted out, you realise how far you've actually got to go, and then I think there's never really an actual destination. I think it's just a constant journey and learning curve.
Yep.
And I pull inspiration from people I follow online, people I perceive to be very successful, and they're probably the hardest working people in the world, And these are guys that I perceive that they have got it all, but it's just they just got that constant drive to just keep pushing themselves and achieve more and help others.
So, if you were to give a word of advice or a word of inspiration or an encouragement to our listeners about how they might get this, how might that look?
Trust your gut. I think intuition is probably one of the most underrated things that we can truly listen to. We always know within ourselves, and with being a coach that you're very good at getting that out of people. but we know within ourselves the things we need to do. I guess we constantly look for third parties to try and validate our ideas and all these sort of things, but really we know within ourselves. And without sort of, putting the house on things and like being reckless, there's, you can still protect yourself in certain ways, but just really listening to your gut and trusting your gut is, for me, just one of the big things that I definitely try and do, and I think a lot of people sort of silence it far too much and sort of second guess themselves and things like that,
and listen to others.
Yeah, and especially listen to others that haven't done it before. You know what I mean? It's like it's
taking advice from what to eat by somebody that clearly
or someone who's done the paleo diet for 3 weeks. But like it's true. Like I just feel like we all know what we need to do, and we sort of have that intuition within ourselves to follow.
Yep. So is there anything else that you think would be really helpful to share with our listeners, something that, was really helpful for you? So maybe something that you learnt along the way that was one of your biggest kind of learnings that you want to share?
Good question. I'm just trying to think.
I know something that's been really beneficial to you has been, seeing the future.
Yeah.
So would that be?
100%. Yeah, like we've disclosure for the audience. We've done quite a few coaching sessions now, and just having the ability to actually look forward and sort of put my self in my future self, and then and sort of be able to see, hear, and feel that, and what that actually, that's been huge for me in terms of actually taking the time to visualize and be in a place of silence and reflection and being able to actually feel where I want to go and see it and hear it. That for me
helps you believe it.
Helps me believe it, but also helps me become that person. Without even, you know what I mean? Like I haven't got there yet in terms of things that I want to achieve, but for me, I'm already that person.
And yet you've achieved so much as well.
100%. Yeah. It's just little, like walking in a room where, we've spoken about this with having, self-doubt about, things from childhood and just things that drag us down purely by our behaviour and our thought patterns over a period of time. And I've noticed, and I noticed it specifically on when we went out for dinner over the weekend and walking into a packed restaurant, and normally, like, I don't know what it is. You just have these insecurities, but I sort of have my shoulders back, and I just feel more confident because I know that I'm doing okay, and I'm on the right path, and I'm doing the right thing. So I definitely feel a lot more confident purely by doing that exercise.
Yeah, of seeing yourself in the future and seeing it and hearing it and feeling it. Yeah, cool. So is there anything else before we close that you would love to share with our listener?
I guess for me being, early 30s, I started my medical resale when I was early 20s. And I guess if you've got any young listeners or perhaps people that are, feel that don't quite have the expertise to go out and pursue the things that they want to pursue and things like that, is just to not let age be a factor, whether you're younger or if you think that you're too old to achieve things, because at the end of the day, age is just a number. It doesn't really matter,
isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the last thing is there anything that you would like to offer, any gift or any offer that you'd like to make to our listeners?
So with Accredited, we do a free 30-minute marketing strategy.
Perfect.
So it's just a great way for us to get to understand the business, because we have to do that anyway, and then for us to just give some tangible advice and some takeaways that people can take away and implement into their business straight away.
Yep.
It's not it's not a sales spiel. Of course, if our services can be helpful, then it's a win-win. But if we can, help someone in their journey, regardless of where they're at in their business.
And even regardless of where they are geographically as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so how might they claim that?
Just go to our website, crudo.com.au, and just
do you want to just
download
spell
the links.
that?
Crudo, CREWDO. So the crew that do for you. That was the idea behind the name.
I love it. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, but
Awesome. So, Dane, thank you so much for your time today and sharing with us some tips and tools to inspire and empower our listeners. And I just want to say thanks.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you.